Before we begin, I want you to imagine standing in a crowded room while everyone laughs at the one thing you built with your bare hands to save the only person you have left in this world. And now imagine that years later, the loudest laugh in that room belongs to the man begging you to use that same invention to save his daughter's life. If stories about resilience, redemption, and second chances move you, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because this one stays with you. The night the world laughed at Daniel Harper was the same night he almost gave up on it. Daniel wasn't a tech genius from Silicon Valley. He wasn't backed by investors or polished by PR teams. He was a 34-year-old widower from a small town in Ohio, raising his 7-year-old son, Liam, alone. He worked days as a maintenance technician at a public school and nights at his kitchen table, soldering wires and studying medical journals he barely understood. 3 years earlier, Daniel's wife, Emily, had died from a sudden cardiac event caused by an undiagnosed arrhythmia. It happened in their living room. 1 minute she was laughing, the next she was on the floor. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Liam had seen everything. After that night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Not because of grief alone, but because of fear. What if Liam had inherited the same condition? What if there were no warning signs again? Doctors told him Liam seemed healthy. "We'll monitor him annually," they said. "There's nothing to worry about right now." But Daniel knew what "nothing to worry about" had meant before. So he started building. It began as a simple idea, a lightweight, affordable wearable device that continuously monitored subtle electrical heart irregularities in children and sent early alerts to parents' phones before a major cardiac event occurred. Not the expensive hospital-grade monitors that cost thousands. Not bulky equipment that scared kids. Something small, comfortable, affordable, preventative. He called it HeartGuard. He wasn't an engineer. He watched online lectures at night. He read textbooks borrowed from the library. He spent his savings on parts. When Liam asked why there were wires all over the kitchen, Daniel would smile and say, "Dad's building a superhero watch." Liam would grin. "Like Iron Man, better," Daniel would say. "It saves hearts." The first prototypes failed. They overheated. They malfunctioned. They sent false alarms at 3 a.m., scaring Daniel into rushing into Liam's room, heart pounding. But Daniel didn't quit. Grief had already taken enough from him. He wouldn't let fear take his son too. 2 years later, HeartGuard finally worked. It wasn't perfect, but in small trials with a handful of local families who trusted Daniel, it detected early irregularities in 2 children who were later diagnosed and treated in time. Word spread locally. A regional news station ran a short segment. That's how Daniel ended up standing in a sleek conference hall in Chicago, invited to pitch his device at a medical technology innovation summit. That's where he met Victor Langford. Victor was the CEO of CardioNova, a billion-dollar medical technology corporation. Tall, sharp suit, confident smile. The kind of man who could turn a handshake into a contract. Daniel had never been in a room like that. Investors, executives, polished prototypes on glowing display tables. When Daniel's turn came, he walked on stage with slightly trembling hands but steady eyes. He didn't talk about market shares. He didn't open with profit projections. He showed a picture of Emily. "My wife died from a condition we didn't know she had," he began. "If we had just a little more warning, she'd still be here." The room quieted. Then he showed Liam's picture. "I built this so no child has to watch that happen." He demonstrated HeartGuard's early detection algorithm. He explained the affordability model, how he wanted insurance partnerships and subsidized pricing for low-income families. When he finished, there was polite applause. Then came the Q&A. Victor stood up. "Mr. Harper," he said smoothly, "your story is compelling. Truly. But sentiment doesn't scale. Your device lacks the sophistication of existing monitors. Your algorithm hasn't been validated in large clinical trials. And frankly, you're not equipped to bring this to market." A few chuckles rippled through the room. Victor continued, "This isn't a garage hobby project. It's healthcare. Lives are at stake." The words hit Daniel like stones. Victor smiled thinly. "If every grieving spouse built a gadget, we'd have chaos, not innovation." Laughter. Louder this time. Daniel felt his ears burn. His hands clenched. He could have snapped back. Could have shouted. Instead, he said quietly, "Every major breakthrough started in someone's garage." The applause that followed was thin. Sympathetic. Not supportive. HeartGuard didn't win funding that night. Daniel returned home defeated but not destroyed. Liam ran to him at the door. Did the superheroes like your watch? Daniel knelt and hugged him tightly. Not yet, buddy, not yet. Months passed. Rejections piled up. Savings thinned. Daniel considered shelving the project and focusing solely on paying bills. Then, one autumn afternoon, HeartGuard vibrated sharply on Liam's wrist while he was at soccer practice. Daniel's phone lit up with a red alert. Severe arrhythmic pattern detected. His blood ran cold. He raced to the field. Liam was sitting on the grass, pale, clutching his chest. Because of the alert, paramedics were called immediately. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Liam had a dangerous but treatable heart rhythm disorder, caught early. If this had gone unnoticed, the cardiologist said gravely, the outcome could have been very different. Daniel sat beside Liam's hospital bed that night, tears streaming silently down his face, not of grief, but of relief. HeartGuard hadn't just been an idea. It had saved his son. That incident changed everything. The hospital conducted a small-scale study. Results were promising. Medical journals began taking interest. A nonprofit pediatric foundation offered a modest grant. Slowly, steadily, HeartGuard grew. 3 years later, Daniel stood in a modest but real office space with a small dedicated team. HeartGuard devices were being distributed in children's hospitals across 3 states. He never became flashy, never wore sharp suits. He still drove his old pickup truck. Then one winter evening, his office phone rang. The voice on the other end was strained. Familiar. Mr. Harper, this is Victor Langford. Daniel felt time fold in on itself. Victor's tone was different now. No polish, no superiority. My daughter, Ava, she's 12. She collapsed this morning. We're at St. Matthew's. They suspect a rare arrhythmic disorder. The early signs are inconsistent. The hospital mentioned your device. Silence stretched. Victor's next words cracked. I was wrong about you. I know that doesn't matter right now. But I'm asking, as a father, can HeartGuard help my little girl? Daniel closed his eyes. He remembered the laughter, the humiliation. Then he remembered Liam on that soccer field. I'll be there, Daniel said. At the hospital, Victor looked smaller somehow. Just a father standing outside an ICU room, eyes red. Ava was connected to monitors, but her episodes were unpredictable. The existing systems weren't catching the subtle precursors. Daniel personally fitted a modified HeartGuard on her wrist. For 36 tense hours, nothing significant appeared. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the device detected a faint but dangerous pattern, a signature Daniel knew too well. He alerted the medical team immediately. Doctors intervened within minutes. Medication was administered before the arrhythmia escalated into cardiac arrest. Ava stabilized. Later that morning, the cardiologist approached Victor and Daniel. If we had waited for visible symptoms on standard monitors, she said, we might have been too late. Victor broke down. He didn't look at Daniel as a CEO. He looked at him as a father who had been handed his child's life back. I laughed at you, Victor whispered. And you still came. Daniel's voice was steady. This was never about proving you wrong. It was about making sure no kid loses a parent, and no parent loses a kid. In the months that followed, Cardio Nova entered a partnership with HeartGuard, not to acquire and bury it, but to scale it globally under Daniel's conditions, affordability clauses, community outreach programs, and open access research collaboration. Victor kept his word. At the global launch conference, Victor stood at the podium first. Years ago, he said, voice echoing through the hall, I dismissed a man because he didn't fit the image of innovation. I confused polish with purpose. Tonight, I stand corrected. He invited Daniel on stage. This time, when Daniel spoke, there was no laughter. Only standing applause. But the moment that mattered most wasn't the applause. It was backstage, when Ava and Liam met. 2 kids, 2 lives saved by the same idea born in grief and built in love. Ava looked at the device on her wrist and smiled at Daniel. So this is the superhero watch. Daniel knelt and winked. Told you it was better than Iron Man. Years later, HeartGuard became standard preventive care in pediatric cardiology worldwide. Millions of children wore it. Thousands of early interventions were credited to it. But Daniel kept Emily's picture in his office. Because the invention wasn't born from ambition. It was born from love. And that's the part no one can mock, scale, or buy. So if you're holding onto an idea, if you're building something in your own garage, while the world laughs, remember this. The same people who doubt you today may one day depend on the courage you show right now. Don't let humiliation silence purpose. Don't let rejection bury calling. And never underestimate what a determined parent, a broken heart, and relentless love can build. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that resilience can rewrite even the cruelest moments, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes, the inventions that change the world don't start in boardrooms. They start at kitchen tables, with someone who simply refuses to lose again.